Here's a scenario I want you to sit with for a second. You launch your membership, you hustle, you post about it, you email your list, you talk about it on your stories every single day for 2 weeks straight, and you hit 100 members. Congratulations, right? That's the goal, that's the milestone, that's the number you've been chasing. Except, here's the thing, nobody's posting. Nobody's showing up to the calls. You drop a discussion prompt and it just sits there. Crickets, tumbleweeds, the kind of silence that makes you want to close your laptop and go lie down. You've got 100 members paying you money and your community feels completely dead. So, what happened? I'll tell you exactly what happened. You filled the seats before you built the room. And today, we're talking about why your first 10 members matter more than your first 100. How to think about who those founding members should be, and why getting this part right, really right, sets the tone for everything that comes after. When you're growing a community, here's the thing nobody warned you about. Getting members in is one challenge. Keeping them there without running yourself into the ground is a completely different one. Welcome to Community at Heart, where we get honest about what it really takes to build a membership business that lasts. We're talking retention over reach, systems over stress, and building spaces that people genuinely want to show up for, including you. I'm Rachel Starr, former wedding planner, recovering people pleaser, and someone who learned the hard way that doing it all yourself isn't a growth strategy. It's just exhausting. I'm a Circle certified partner and founder of the coCreator Society, and I help membership leaders go from overwhelmed to magnetic, attracting members who stay, pay, and invite their friends without it costing you your energy or your sanity. Each week, I'm bringing you practical strategies, real conversations, and the behind-the-scenes truth about growing a community without sacrificing your nervous system. So pull up a chair, grab your coffee or sweet tea, and let's get into it. Welcome back, friends. I'm Rachel Starr, your community strategist. So I want to start by naming something that I think most community builders don't talk about enough. There is this obsession, and I mean obsession, with hitting certain member milestones. 10 members, 50 members, 100 members, 500 members. And I get it. Those numbers feel like proof for something. They feel like validation that what you're building is real, that people want it, that you're not just talking to yourself in a digital room you build alone on a Tuesday afternoon. But here's what nobody tells you. The number doesn't matter nearly as much as the people behind it. I've seen communities with 50 members that are absolutely electric, full of conversations, connection, collaboration, people genuinely helping each other and showing up every week like it's the best part of their Thursday. And I've seen communities with 500 members that feel like a complete ghost town, where the most recent post in the feed is from 3 weeks ago, where the founder is doing emotional gymnastics, trying to figure out how to get people to care. The difference almost always traces back to the same thing: who the founding members were and whether they were chosen intentionally. And look, I know some of you are thinking, but Rachel, don't engagement problems come from bad onboarding, bad content strategy, bad community design? And sometimes, yes, those things 100% matter. But I've seen beautifully designed communities die because the founding members weren't right. And I've seen communities with imperfect onboarding and slightly chunky tech thrive because the people inside were so well matched that they made it work anyways. The design is important. The culture is everything. And culture starts with people. So let's talk about what I call the founding member phenomenon. The first 10 members are not just the first customers, they are your culture architects. They set the tone, they establish what normal looks like inside your community. They model the behavior that every member who comes after them will see and unconsciously calibrate to. Think about it like this. You walk into a restaurant and you've never been there before. You look around and you see whether people are dressed up or casual, whether it's loud and lively or quiet and candlelit, whether the tables are close together or spaced out, whether people are lingering or eating quickly. Within about 30 seconds, you have a strong sense of what kind of place this is, and you adjust accordingly. You act the way the room tells you to act. Your community works exactly the same way. When a new member joins and they look around at what's already happening, the kinds of questions being asked, the depths of conversations being had, the level of vulnerability or humor or generosity on display, they read the room and then they act accordingly. Your first 10 members are that room. They are the atmosphere every single person who comes after them will walk into and immediately read. So if your founding members are passive lurkers who join because they got a sweet deal and figure they'd check it out, that's the atmosphere you're creating. If your founding members are the wrong fit, people who are too early in their journey or too far ahead, or just not quite your people, that's the energy that gets baked in. And once a community culture is set, it is very hard to change. I'm not saying it's impossible. I've helped people rebuild community culture, but it is a significantly heavier lift than just getting it right at the start. Now, let me be really clear about something because I don't want you to walk away from this episode thinking the answer is to be elitist or exclusive in some way that feels weird or uncomfortable. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that intentionality matters. There's a difference between thoughtfully curating your founding cohort and being selective for ego's sake. This isn't about making your community harder to get into so it feels prestigious. It's about understanding that the people you let in early will directly shape the experience for everyone who comes after them. That is a responsibility. And when you treat it like one, everything changes. So let's talk about the myth I want to bust wide open today. And that myth is fill the seats, then fix the vibe. I hear this all the time. Just get people in, get numbers up, worry about engagement later. And I understand why it's tempting, especially when you're staring at a brand new community that feels very empty and you're feeling very vulnerable. And you just want to see some activity. But here's the thing. You cannot fix the vibe after the culture has calcified. Think about it like concrete. When you are first pouring a community, you have a window, and it's not a huge window, where the culture is still wet and workable. You can shape it, you can press things into it, you can add texture and form. But once it sets, you're not shaping it anymore, you're chipping at it. And that is exhausting, my friend. The fill it and fix it approach is how you end up with 100 members and a dead feed. Because those first 50 or 80 or 100 people who joined before the culture was intentional, they established what normal looks like. And now you're trying to convince everyone that normal is actually something entirely different. That's a hard sell. I had a client. I won't get into too many specifics here, but she came to me after launching her community and basically running a promotion to get 50 members as quickly as possible. She hit 50 in about 2 weeks. And she was thrilled. And then 6 weeks later, she was absolutely bewildered because nobody was showing up, nobody was posting, and she was the only person consistently creating content in a community she was paying to host. When we dug into it, we found that a significant chunk of those 50 members had joined because of the deal pricing, not because they were deeply aligned with what she was building. Not because they were the right fit, because it seemed like a good opportunity and they figured they'd see. And the behavior of those founding members, passive, non participatory, treat it like a subscription you forgot about. That was the culture that got set. The members who joined after them walked in that and assumed that's just how this community works. So she had to go back and basically relaunch internally, which is doable. But friends, it is so much harder than just doing it right the first time. Before I get into the practical part, let me tell you what it actually looks like when you get the founding cohort right. Because I want this to feel real, not just theoretical. When you have the right founding members in place, a few things happen almost immediately. First, the energy is self sustaining. You don't have to show up every day and force things to happen. You post something and people respond. You ask a question and there's actually a conversation, not a void. Someone shares a win and other members cheer for them in a way that feels organic, not performed. That self sustaining energy is not magic. It's the result of having people in the room who have a genuine reason to be there. Second, your community starts to co create itself. Yes, I like puns. Your founding members, if they're well chosen, will tell you what they need. They'll ask for things, they'll suggest things, they'll create informal rituals, like people always sharing their Monday goals on Monday mornings, or someone who starts a weekly thread that everyone loves without you ever having to prompt it. Your community develops a personality, and that personality comes from the people in it. Third, and this is one with the biggest downstream impact, your founding members become your best marketers. Not because you ask them to, because when people are getting real value from something, they talk about it. They mention it in conversations. They recommend it to colleagues. They say things like, I've been in this community for 3 months and it's changed how I approach fill in the blank. That word of mouth is worth more than any ad you'll ever run. And all of it starts with those first 10 people. So, how do you identify the right founding members? Here's my honest answer. You already know some of them, they're in your world right now. They're the people who respond to your emails, who comment thoughtfully on your content, who've worked in with you and gotten results, who are already talking to you about the problems your community is designed to solve. The founding members of your community are almost never strangers. They are warm leads, existing clients, engaged followers, people who already trust you and already resonate with your message. When you're thinking about who to invite or who to specifically reach out to and say, hey, I built this with people like you in mind, start there. Not with your broadcast audience, with the people who already get it. Now, here's where I want to give you something practical. I call it the Founding 10 filter. 3 questions to ask yourself about anyone considering joining in that early window. Question 1, do they have a problem your community is designed to solve? Not a vague interest in the topic, an actual active problem they are trying to work through right now. Because people who have a problem are motivated to engage. They're showing up because they need something, and your community is where they're going to find it. Question 2, are they at the right stage for what you're building? This is about fit, not gatekeeping. Are the conversations that are happening inside your community going to be genuinely useful to this person? If they're too early, they won't understand the nuance of what's being discussed. If they're too advanced, they'll feel like they're waiting for everyone else to catch up. Either way, it's not a great experience for them or for your community. Question 3, have they given you any signal that they're actually going to show up? I don't mean perfectly. I don't mean someone who's going to post every day and comment on everything. I mean, have they engaged with your content before? Do they respond to your emails? Did they ask a thoughtful question somewhere along the way? Some signal of active interest before joining almost always predicts engagement after joining. It's not a perfect predictor, but it's a real one. And a bonus question worth asking yourself honestly, is this someone whose presence inside the community is going to add something? Are they curious? Are they generous with what they know? Do they ask good questions? Because communities are made up of conversations, and conversations are made of people. The quality of your community day to day is just the sum of the conversations happening inside it. So the people who are naturally curious, naturally generous, naturally inclined to engage, they raise the quality of every conversation they touch. Get 10 of those people in a room, and the whole room gets smarter and warmer and more useful. That's what you're building towards. Now, I want to zoom out for a second because I think there's something underneath all of this that's worth naming. There's a reason so many founders default to just get the numbers up rather than being intentional about their first cohort. And that reason is fear. Fear that if you're too selective, nobody will join. Fear that if you start small and slow, you'll never build momentum. Fear that a community of 10 just doesn't look like enough. And I wanted to speak directly to that fear because I think it is leading a lot of founders to make decisions that hurt them in the long run. Here's the truth: a tight, engaged community of 10 people is infinitely, and I mean infinitely, more powerful than a sprawling, disengaged community of 100. Not just from an experience standpoint, from a business standpoint. Those 10 engaged people are telling their friends, they're giving you testimonials, they're giving you real insight into what your community needs. They're creating a proof of concept you can show to the next 10 people. The 100 disengaged people are quietly churning. Or they're not churning yet, but they're also not creating any of the value that makes a membership grow. Numbers feel like progress. Engaged in line members are actual progress. And I would so much rather you launch to 10 people and knock it out of the park than launch to 100 people and spend the next year trying to figure out why nobody shows up. Let me also say this because I think it matters a lot. The way you treat your founding members communicates something to them. When you're intentional about who you're bringing in, when you reach out to specific people, when you tell them, hey, I built this with people like you in mind, I want you to be part of what we're starting, that makes people feel chosen. And feeling chosen creates a very different kind of member than feeling like someone who stumbled across a launch offer. Your founding members should know that they are founding members. They should know that their participation in these early months is shaping what this community becomes, that their questions and their feedback and their presence matters. That is not a manipulation tactic, it is the truth. Your founding members are shaping your community. Tell them that. Create some rituals around it. Maybe there's a founding member space inside your circle community. Maybe they get a badge. Maybe do a special founding cohort call where you just talk about what you're building and ask for their input. Whatever it looks like for your community, make it meaningful. Because the members who feel ownership over what they're part of, they don't leave. They become your most vocal advocates. They refer their friends, invite their colleagues. They become the reason other people join long after the founding period is over. That's the compounding effect of getting your first 10 right. Here's what I want you to walk away with today, friends. Growth is not just a numbers game. I know we're living in a world that tells us otherwise. Member milestones and subscriber counts are everywhere, and it can feel like those are the only measures that matter. But I watch communities fail at 500 members all the time. And I watch communities thrive at 50. The difference is almost never the number. It's whether the people inside the community are the right people, whether they join with intention, whether they're there for the transformation your community is designed to create. And none of that starts at 100. It all starts at 10. So if you're in the early days of building your membership, or you're about to launch, or you're looking at what you've already built and wondering why the energy isn't there, I want you to go back to the beginning. Who are your first 10? Are they the right people? Have you treated the founding member stage with the intentionality it deserves? Because here's the thing, you can always grow your numbers, but you can't unset a culture. Get your first 10 right, and everything else gets easier. I've watched this play out enough times that I am completely confident in saying that. Your first 10 are not the start of your community. They are your community, at least for a little while. And eventually, when you have 100 members who are electric and engaged and talking to each other and bringing their friends along, it's going to be because of those first 10 who showed up and made the room worth being in. That's the thing worth building towards. Okay, friends, that's what I've got for you today. If this episode sparks some things you want to think about with other community builders, come find us inside the Co-Creator Society. It's exactly the kind of community I'm describing in this episode. Built on Circle with our own branded app and full of people who are in the thick of building something real. Head to coCreatorSociety.com. The link is in the show notes. And if you're not already subscribed to the Community at Heart Substack, that's another great place to stay in the conversation between episodes. Until next week, bye, friends.